the day of celebration. The long-awaited day of graduation dawned, bathing the Wereline University campus in a golden glow that seemed to heighten the excitement in the air. Joy and anticipation buzzed through every corner of the grounds as students prepared to celebrate the culmination of years of hard work, discipline, and relentless pursuit of excellence. Among the throng of graduates, two figures stood out prominently, Ruta and Kodo, both of whom had earned top honors in their class. Their academic and martial achievements shone brightly against the backdrop of jubilant celebration, yet beneath this outward display of triumph, a deeper tension simmered, fueled by an unresolved rivalry that had been building for years. Kodo's journey had been one of steadfast determination and unwavering resolve. His peers admired him not only for his intellectual prowess, but also for his exceptional skills in martial arts. His disciplined approach to life and learning earned him respect from all who knew him, and his calm, collected demeanor made him a natural leader. Beside him stood Durika, the embodiment of grace and beauty at Wereline, her every step radiating a quiet confidence that captivated those around her. The love between Kodo and Durika was unshakable, a beacon of purity and devotion that inspired everyone who witnessed it, a testament to their strong bond amidst the chaos and challenges of their world. In stark contrast, Ruta harbored a festering bitterness that gnawed at him with every passing day. His accomplishments were no less impressive than Kodo's, but the accolades and successes did little to soothe the growing resentment in his heart. Ruta's mind was clouded by jealousy, and his thoughts were consumed by the desire to prove himself superior to Kodo, to reclaim the spotlight that he believed rightfully belonged to him. As the students tossed their caps into the air, celebrating their academic journey's end, the undercurrents of rivalry hinted at an impending storm, a clash of ambitions that threatened to shatter the fragile peace of their world. Durika, caught in the middle of this unspoken conflict, remained unaware of the full extent of the tempest brewing around her. Her love for Kodo was unwavering, a steady anchor in the turbulent seas of their lives. Yet she could not dismiss the intense gaze that Ruta often directed her way, a look that sent a chill down her spine and hinted at emotions far more complicated than simple rivalry. As the graduates prepared to step into the next chapter of their lives, the stage was set for a future rife with uncertainty, where the echoes of unresolved conflicts and the relentless pursuit of love and ambition would shape the destinies of all involved. As the ceremony drew to a close and the graduates dispersed to celebrate with their families and friends, Ruta seized the opportunity to confront Kodo one more time. His strides were purposeful, his eyes burning with a fierce intensity that left no room for doubt about his intentions. "Kodo," Ruta began, his voice carrying a sharp edge of contempt, "today may be a day of celebration for you, but I have not forgotten what stands between us. Our rivalry is far from over." Kodo met Ruta's gaze with the same calm determination that had guided him through every challenge. His eyes revealed nothing of the inner turmoil that Ruta had hoped to provoke. "Ruta," he replied evenly, "there's no need for further conflict. We've both achieved our goals, and there's no reason to let animosity overshadow the accomplishments of this day." But Ruta was not to be deterred. The hatred that fueled him burned hotter with every word. "Don't presume to lecture me, Kodo," he spat, his voice dripping with disdain. "You may think you've won this round, but the war between us is far from over. I won't rest until I've proven myself superior to you in every way." Kodo sighed, his patience wearing thin under the weight of Ruta's relentless antagonism. "Very well, Ruta," he conceded, "if it's a rematch you seek, then so be it. But let's not allow our personal vendettas to overshadow the achievements of this day." With that, the stage was set for another inevitable confrontation, a clash of wills that would test the limits of their strength, skill, and resolve. As they prepared to face each other once more, the tension between them reverberated through the corridors of Wereline, casting a shadow over what should have been a day of pure celebration. The echoes of their rivalry promised that this was only the beginning of a new and tumultuous chapter in their intertwined fates. The final duel at Wereline. The Grand Hall of Wereline University buzzed with electrifying anticipation as students, professors, and alumni gathered to witness the final event of the graduation ceremony, the traditional duel between the two best students. This time, the spotlight was on Kodo and Ruta, two young men who had dominated the academic and martial ranks throughout their time at the university. According to Wereline's long-standing tradition, the top two graduates would face off in a barehanded fight, a test of skill, strength, and spirit that would determine who among them was truly the best. The arena, a vast circular pit with walls that rose high into the air, was surrounded by tiered seating filled with eager spectators. The stone floor, worn smooth by centuries of similar duels, gleamed under the bright overhead lights. The atmosphere was charged with a mixture of excitement and tension as the audience awaited the clash of titans. At the center of the arena, Kodo and Ruda stood facing each other, their expressions stark contrasts, Kodo's calm and focused, Ruda's intense and brimming with barely concealed fury. Durika sat among the spectators, her heart pounding in her chest. She had known this moment would come, but the reality of it was far more intense than she had imagined. Kodo and Ruda, two of the most important people in her life, were about to engage in a brutal fight. While she knew that this duel was a part of their tradition, a test of their skills and endurance, she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of dread. She wanted Kodo to win, he was the love of her life, but the thought of Ruda, who had once been a close friend, losing and further stoking the flames of his hatred filled her with sorrow. A hush fell over the crowd as the headmaster stepped forward to address the audience. His voice, strong and authoritative, echoed through the hall. Today, we honor the traditions of Wereline University by witnessing the duel between our two finest graduates. Kodo and Ruda, you have both proven yourselves to be exceptional warriors and scholars. This fight is not only a test of your physical abilities, but also of your character. May you fight with honor. With that, the headmaster stepped back, raising his hand to signal the start of the duel. The entire hall seemed to hold its breath as Kodo and Ruda prepared to engage. The moment the signal was given, Ruda sprang forward with a ferocity that took the audience by surprise. His first strike, a powerful punch aimed directly at Kodo's face, came with a speed and force that could have easily floored a lesser opponent. But Kodo was ready. He sidestepped the blow with a graceful movement, his eyes locked on Ruda's, his mind already calculating his next move. Still playing the calm, collected one, Kodo? Ruda snarled as he pivoted, launching a series of rapid-fire punches at Kodo's chest. Let's see how long that lasts when I beat you down in front of everyone. Kodo blocked the punches with his forearms, each impact sending shockwaves through his body. Ruda was stronger than he had anticipated, his strikes fueled by pure rage. But Kodo remained unfazed, his expression focused as he countered with a low kick aimed at Ruda's legs. The kick connected, and Ruda staggered, but only for a moment before regaining his balance. Is that all you've got? Ruda spat, his voice dripping with contempt. He charged forward again, this time swinging a vicious elbow at Kodo's ribs. Kodo managed to block the strike with his arm, but the force of the blow made him wince. Ruda was relentless, his attacks coming faster and harder, each one driven by his desperate need to prove his superiority. You've always been in my way, Kodo. Ruda shouted as he launched another attack, this time aiming a roundhouse kick at Kodo's head. But today, I'm going to prove that I'm better than you in every way. Kodo ducked under the kick, his movements fluid and controlled. This isn't about proving who's better, Ruda, he replied calmly, his voice steady even as he prepared to strike back. This fight is about honor, about showing what we've learned. Don't patronize me. Ruda roared, his voice filled with anger. He threw a punch at Kodo's midsection, but Kodo twisted to the side, avoiding the blow by a hair's breadth. You think you're so noble, so righteous. But you're just a coward, hiding behind your calm facade. Kodo's eyes narrowed as he stepped in close, delivering a quick jab to Ruda's shoulder. I'm not hiding anything, Ruda, he said quietly, his voice carrying an edge of steel. I'm just not driven by hatred like you are. Ruda's face twisted in rage as he swung wildly at Kodo, his fists a blur of motion. But Kodo's defenses held firm, his movements precise and controlled as he blocked and countered with a series of quick strikes. Each time Ruda attacked, Kodo met him with equal force, neither gaining the upper hand. The crowd watched in awe as the two warriors battled with unparalleled skill and intensity. One side attacked, the other defended. One side received a punch, the other side received a kick. The sound of fists and feet meeting flesh echoed through the hall, each impact drawing gasps and cheers from the spectators. The excitement in the air was palpable, the tension building with each passing second as the fight continued to rage on. Durika could barely breathe as she watched the fight unfold, her heart torn between the two men she cared about. She wanted Kodo to win, to emerge victorious and unscathed, but at the same time, she couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for Ruta. She knew how much this fight meant to him, how desperately he wanted to prove himself. But she also knew that his hatred and anger would only lead to more pain if he continued down this path. "Give up, Kodo!" Ruta yelled, his voice raw with emotion as he launched a brutal knee strike at Kodo's abdomen. "You can't win this fight. I won't let you." Kodo grunted as the knee connected, the impact sending a jolt of pain through his body. But he quickly recovered, using the momentum to deliver a powerful elbow strike to Ruta's jaw. "I'm not giving up, Ruta," Kodo said, his voice calm but firm. "But this fight isn't about winning or losing. It's about who we are." Ruta stumbled back, his hand touching his jaw where Kodo's elbow had landed. His eyes blazed with fury as he wiped the blood from his lip. "You think you're so wise, don't you?" he sneered. "But you're just like everyone else, trying to keep me down, trying to steal what's mine." Kodo shook his head, his expression one of regret. "I'm not trying to steal anything from you, Ruta. I've never wanted to be your enemy. But you are." Ruta shouted, his voice filled with bitterness as he lunged at Kodo, his fists swinging wildly. "You're the reason I'm not where I should be. You're the reason Durika isn't mine." Kodo's eyes flickered with sadness as he blocked Ruta's strikes, each movement precise and controlled. "Durika isn't a prize to be won, Ruta. She's a person, with her own feelings and choices." Ruta's rage only intensified at Kodo's words, his attacks becoming more violent and erratic. "Don't talk to me about feelings," he roared, his voice cracking with emotion. "You don't know what it's like to love someone and have them taken away from you." Kodo felt a pang of sympathy for Ruta, but he knew that this fight had to be finished. "Ruta, this hatred is going to destroy you," he said, his voice steady even as he prepared to strike back. "You need to let it go. I don't need your pity." Ruta growled as he threw a devastating punch at Kodo's face. But Kodo, with lightning-fast reflexes, caught Ruta's wrist midair, twisting it to the side in a move that left the crowd breathless. The two men locked eyes, their faces inches apart, the intensity of the moment almost unbearable. Ruta's eyes were wild, filled with a mixture of rage and despair, while Kodo's were calm, steady, reflecting the deep understanding that Ruta had always envied. "Why can't you fight me like a man?" Ruta spat, his voice hoarse with anger. "Stop playing the hero and fight me." Kodo tightened his grip on Ruta's wrist, his voice deep and firm. "I am fighting you, Ruta. But this isn't just a battle of fists. It's a battle of wills, of who we choose to be." For a moment, Ruta's resolve wavered, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. But the anger, the resentment that had simmered in his heart for years, refused to be silenced. With a roar of rage, he wrenched his wrist free from Kodo's grasp and delivered a punishing kick to Kodo's side. The impact sent Kodo staggering back, but he quickly regained his balance, breathing hard. Ruta was relentless, pressing his advantage with a series of powerful punches and kicks that drove Kodo to the edge of the arena. The crowd stood on the edge of their seats, the excitement in the hall reaching a fever pitch. Each exchange of blows was met with gasps and cheers, the audience completely immersed in the intensity of the fight. The climax of the duel. Durika's hands were clenched tightly in her lap, her knuckles white as she watched the brutal exchange between Kodo and Ruta. Each blow, each impact, made her wince, her heart torn between the two men she cared about. She had never seen Ruta so consumed by anger, nor had she ever witnessed Kodo so deeply tested. The tension in the arena was suffocating, the air thick with the collective anticipation of the outcome. The two warriors, equally matched, seemed locked in a deadly dance, each one pushing the other to their limits. Ruda's attacks were unrelenting. He moved with the speed and aggression of a man possessed, his fists and feet striking with precision and power. His face, once handsome and composed, was now contorted with fury, his eyes blazing with a mixture of desperation and determination. This was more than just a fight to Ruda, it was his final chance to prove himself, to show everyone, especially Durika, that he was Kodo's superior. The need to win, to be recognized, burned within him like a fever, driving him to push harder, hit faster, and strike with more ferocity. Kodo, on the other hand, fought with a calmness that belied the intensity of the battle. Each movement was deliberate, controlled, his breathing steady despite the pain radiating through his body. Kodo's strategy was clear: wear Ruda down, counter his aggression with calculated precision, and wait for the moment when Ruda's rage would make him sloppy. But even as he fought with skill and determination, Kodo couldn't ignore the sadness in his heart, the sadness that this fight, which should have been a display of honor and skill, had become so deeply personal, so filled with bitterness. "Is this all you've got, Kodo?" Ruda taunted as he landed a solid punch to Kodo's ribs, causing him to grunt in pain. "Come on. Show me what you're really made of. Or are you afraid to lose in front of Durika?" Kodo felt the sting of Ruda's words, but he refused to let them get under his skin. "This isn't about fear, Ruda," he replied, dodging a kick aimed at his head. "It's about knowing when to fight and when to hold back." "Hold back?" Ruda snarled, delivering a sharp elbow to Kodo's shoulder. "Is that your excuse for losing? You're a coward, Kodo. You're afraid to go all out because you know you'll lose." Kodo absorbed the blow, the pain radiating through his body, but his resolve remained unshaken. "I'm not afraid to lose," he said quietly, his voice steady. "But I am afraid of what this fight is doing to you. Don't you dare talk to me about fear." Ruda roared, his anger boiling over as he launched a powerful roundhouse kick at Kodo. The kick connected with Kodo's side, sending him sprawling to the ground. The crowd gasped in unison, the impact of the blow reverberating through the arena. Kodo hit the ground hard, the wind knocked out of him. He could taste blood in his mouth, the result of a split lip from one of Ruda's earlier punches. But even as pain shot through his body, Kodo refused to stay down. He rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding a stomp from Ruda, and sprang back to his feet, his chest heaving with the effort. Ruda's face twisted into a smirk as he watched Kodo struggle to stand. "That's right, Kodo," he spat. "Get back up so I can knock you down again. You're nothing but a stepping stone to my greatness." Kodo wiped the blood from his mouth, his eyes meeting Ruda's with a mixture of determination and sadness. "This isn't who you are, Ruda," he said, his voice tinged with regret. "You're letting your hatred consume you. Don't pretend you know me." Ruda shouted, throwing a vicious punch aimed at Kodo's face. Kodo ducked just in time, countering with a quick jab to Ruda's side. Ruda grunted in pain but quickly retaliated with a flurry of punches that Kodo barely managed to deflect. The fight continued with a relentless pace, the two warriors exchanging blow after blow, neither gaining a clear advantage. The audience was on the edge of their seats, their eyes glued to the intense battle unfolding before them. Every punch, every kick, every dodge was met with gasps, cheers, and cries of excitement. The energy in the arena was palpable, the spectators fully immersed in the spectacle of skill and ferocity. Durika could see the toll the fight was taking on both of them, their movements becoming slower, their breaths more labored, their bodies bruised and battered. And yet, neither Kodo nor Ruda showed any sign of backing down. The stakes were too high, their pride too deeply entwined in the outcome of this duel. As the fight wore on, Kodo began to notice the signs of fatigue in Ruda's movements. His attacks, once swift and precise, were becoming more reckless, his punches and kicks losing some of their power. Kodo knew that this was his chance to turn the tide of the fight, but he also knew that Ruda's desperation made him dangerous. Kodo blocked a wild punch from Ruda and countered with a spinning kick that caught Ruda in the ribs. Ruda staggered back, clutching his side, but his eyes blazed with defiance. "I'm not done yet," he growled, charging at Kodo with a flurry of punches. Kodo deflected the punches, his movements fluid and controlled, but he could feel the strain on his own body. The fight had taken its toll on both of them, and Kodo knew that it would soon reach its climax. He could see the anger in Ruta's eyes, the desperation to win at any cost, and he knew that this was the moment that would decide the outcome. "Ruta, stop!" Kodo shouted as he blocked another punch. "This isn't worth it. You're only hurting yourself." "Shut up!" Ruta roared, his voice cracking with emotion. "I won't stop until I've beaten you. I won't stop until I've proven that I'm better than you." With a final surge of energy, Ruta launched a powerful kick aimed at Kodo's head. Kodo saw the kick coming and reacted instinctively, ducking under the attack and delivering a punishing uppercut to Ruta's jaw. The impact sent Ruta reeling, but Kodo didn't press his advantage. Instead, he stepped back, his breathing heavy, his eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and determination. Ruta stumbled, his vision blurred from the force of Kodo's punch. He could taste blood in his mouth, his body screaming in pain, but his pride refused to let him fall. With a growl of defiance, he steadied himself, glaring at Kodo with a hatred that burned hotter than ever. "You think you've won?" Ruta spat, his voice hoarse. "You think you can just walk away from this?" Kodo shook his head, his expression calm but resolute. "I don't want to win, Ruta. I want this to end before it's too late." Ruta's eyes blazed with fury as he lunged at Kodo, throwing a wild punch that Kodo easily sidestepped. But Kodo's counterattack was met with a quick dodge from Ruta, who followed up with a sweeping kick that nearly caught Kodo off guard. The crowd watched in rapt attention, the cheers and shouts growing louder with each exchange. The fight had reached a fever pitch, the two warriors locked in a deadly dance of skill and determination. The tension in the arena was almost unbearable, the outcome of the duel still uncertain. Durika's heart was in her throat as she watched Kodo and Ruta trade blows, her emotions a whirlwind of fear, hope, and sorrow. The intensity of the fight, the raw emotion behind each strike, made her stomach churn with anxiety. Kodo and Ruta continued to battle, their movements becoming more desperate as the fight dragged on. Each punch, each kick was delivered with the knowledge that this could be the final blow. Both men were pushed to their limits, their bodies bruised and battered, their strength waning with each passing moment. In one final, desperate move, Ruta threw a powerful punch aimed at Kodo's head. Kodo saw the attack coming and instinctively dodged to the side, countering with a spinning back kick that caught Ruta in the chest. The impact sent Ruta stumbling backward, but he managed to stay on his feet, his breathing ragged and labored. The audience held its breath as the two warriors faced each other, their chests heaving, their eyes locked in a stare of mutual respect and unrelenting determination. They had fought to a standstill, neither able to gain a decisive advantage. It was clear that the fight had reached its end, but neither Kodo nor Ruta was willing to back down. "Why won't you just fall?" Ruta spat, his voice a mix of exhaustion and anger. "Because I can't," Kodo replied, his voice calm despite the fatigue weighing on him. "I won't give up on you, Ruta. Not now, not ever." For a brief moment, the anger in Ruta's heart wavered, the fiery hatred that had driven him to this point flickering like a candle in the wind. He stood there, his chest heaving, his fists clenched, and his mind racing with conflicting emotions. Kodo's words echoed in his mind, piercing through the fog of rage and resentment that had clouded his judgment for so long. Could it be that all this time, he had been fighting the wrong battle? The crowd remained silent, holding its collective breath as they watched the intense standoff between the two warriors. The excitement and fervor that had filled the arena moments before had now given way to a tense anticipation as everyone awaited the final outcome of this brutal duel. Even the most seasoned of the spectators could sense that something profound was happening, something that went beyond the physical battle being waged before them. Durika's heart ached as she watched Ruta, his face a mask of pain and confusion. She could see the inner turmoil raging within him, the struggle between his pride and the faint glimmer of realization that Kodo's words might hold some truth. She knew that Ruta had always been driven by his desire to be the best, to prove himself to the world. But now, she wondered if he had lost sight of what truly mattered, consumed by a rivalry that had become more about vengeance than honor. "Ruta," Kodo said, his voice steady but filled with a quiet urgency, "this fight doesn't have to end like this. We've both proven our strength, our skill. But there's more to being a warrior than just winning a fight." Ruta's eyes flashed with anger, but the doubt lingered. "Don't talk to me like you know what it's like to be me, Kodo," he shouted, his voice cracking with emotion. "You've always had everything: respect, admiration, Durika. You've never had to struggle like I have." Kodo took a deep breath, his eyes softening as he spoke. "I know I can't fully understand what you've been through, Ruta. But I do know that holding onto this hatred will only destroy you in the end. We've both come so far, accomplished so much. But this isn't the way forward." Ruta clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He wanted to dismiss Kodo's words, to continue fighting until he could claim victory, but something deep inside him whispered that Kodo might be right. The hatred, the anger, it had fueled him, driven him to be the best, but it had also left him feeling empty, unfulfilled. Was this really what he wanted? To win a fight at the cost of losing himself? For a moment, the two warriors simply stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills, their bodies battered and bruised, but their spirits unbroken. The arena, once filled with the roar of the crowd, was now eerily quiet, the spectators on the edge of their seats as they waited to see what would happen next. Durika watched with bated breath, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She knew this moment was critical, not just for the outcome of the duel, but for the future of both Kodo and Ruta. She silently willed Ruta to let go of his anger, to see that there was another way, a way that didn't involve tearing each other apart. But just as it seemed that Ruta might lower his guard, the flicker of doubt in his eyes was snuffed out by a surge of stubborn pride. His gaze hardened, and with a roar of defiance, he charged at Kodo, his fists flying in a final, desperate attempt to land a decisive blow. Kodo, his body aching and weary, braced himself for the onslaught. He knew that this was Ruta's last burst of energy, fueled more by emotion than by strength. As Ruta's fists came at him, Kodo moved with the precision and grace that had defined his fighting style throughout the duel. He blocked Ruta's punches, deflected his kicks, and countered with quick, calculated strikes that took advantage of Ruta's overextended attacks. The exchange was fierce and fast, each blow landing with a force that made the crowd wince. Ruta's desperation gave him strength, but it also made him reckless. Kodo, on the other hand, remained focused, using Ruta's own momentum against him. With every punch and kick, Kodo could feel Ruta's energy waning, his movements becoming more sluggish, more erratic. In a final move, Ruta threw a wild haymaker, a punch loaded with all the frustration, anger, and resentment that had built up over the years. Kodo saw it coming and ducked under it, delivering a swift, controlled punch to Ruta's abdomen. The force of the blow knocked the wind out of Ruta, sending him stumbling backward. The crowd erupted in applause, a thunderous ovation that echoed through the hall as the realization of the fight's end spread among the spectators. But Ruta barely heard it. All he could hear was the sound of his own breathing, the rapid beat of his heart, and the echo of Kodo's words in his mind. Durika's eyes filled with tears as she watched the scene unfold. She had feared for both of them throughout the fight, but now she felt a wave of relief wash over her. The duel was over, and despite the outcome, she hoped that this moment would be a turning point for Ruta, a chance for him to let go of his anger and find peace. The headmaster stepped forward, raising his hands to silence the crowd. Today, we have witnessed a duel that will be remembered for years to come. Kodo and Ruta, you have both demonstrated extraordinary skill, strength, and honor. The outcome of this fight is not measured by who stands and who falls, but by the lessons learned and the growth achieved. You are both true warriors. But deep down, Ruta's hatred had not been fully extinguished. It still simmered in the darkest corners of his heart, a flickering flame that refused to die.